What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and today we're going to be talking none other than about BT-14 Nationals for Europe and Latam. You guys will be the ones dealing with the format in its entirety with the restriction in place, while, Oceanic and the US, North America side, is taking care of the EX5 format. So, kind of split there, so we should talk a little bit about what to expect, maybe what cards you should be thinking about when you're building your decks. So without further ado, let's get into the video and talk about it. So let's get into it. So if you guys know, I use the data from Digimon CG Guide that gathers everything from Twitter into one unified place. It really is great information. You kind of get some data, so it's definitely vital for the player base to understand. So what am I going to take a look quickly at is stuff like the Black War Greymon list and everything like that. So if we take a look at everything, there was multiple ways of playing the format. You can play Black Base, War Greymon, and War Greymon itself. And it's interesting how the Greymon deck can be. You have multiple ways of playing it, but you kind of want to just be consistent and just watch out on stuff. Like if you go pure Black Base, that's on you. There's nothing really too out of the ordinary there. Going red base, you kind of want the Hades Force and stuff, but all in all, you kind of just get the same feeling. You're not really changing much up here. You kind of have your ways of outs, and you're just going to apply pressure in your own way. And I think just keeping an eye out on how decks are like this. This is one of the decks that was performing extremely well. You can tell by, we go back into the CG guide itself. Let's take a look. It was the third best deck of the format. Only 36 tops, but that was still a lot of data taking in. Yes, there are some factors like best of 1 to best of 3s. We do have, Saberhawk Mon at 3, and then we do have, Tommy at a full playset and Saberhawk at a full playset now when we come into it. Those decks are sleeper picks. They are underdog picks. I don't know how that's going to change up the meta. I don't think they're going to do enough damage where we should see them topping like crazy. They will be splashed in certain decks, but outside of that, I don't think they're going to apply enough damage to really relegate them to being a tier 1 deck. But taking a look at it, Black Base, Black War Greymon, or you just go the same route as you always have. The War Greymon lists basically are the same except for the top end at this point. Tamer Pop if you need it, raiding, warping, it's just all good stuff all in general. Red base I think is more underlying the better deck of the two, and we do have trainings to back that up. Another thing you want to take a relatively thought process is Shine's not going anywhere. Yes, they weakened Geo Gray by 1, which also affected every yellow deck in the format because that's how they were sneaking out their free tamers. TK's out, their Mirage out. All these good tamers that you would want free are now struggling in there. So just having the Geo Greymon down by 1 is not going to really hinder the deck as extreme as people think. It's just going to come down to speed and tempo, and this deck's speed is always there. I think sleeping on it is just thinking it's a dead deck is the wrong place, but just keeping this in mind. Then, Mirage, same thing happened. This version got hit, but what people ended up doing anyway is they started just teching in, and what they're going to do is just Zudomon Ace. I mean, this being at 1, oh well, I think it's not the strongest of the 3, but it's pretty decently powerful. But, I mean, the way it comboed is fine, but you have Mem Boost, you have, the trainings, they're all going to vitally help. You're just probably just going to move up Zudomon Ace in its place. So whatever your list was going to do, you just take Zudomon Ace and add more in. Or you take in, BT-14's Mach Gaogamon, or Mach, Gaogamon from BT-11. You can always bring these up, and it's not going to really harm the deck. It's still going to combo off. It's still going to do what it wants to do. There's nothing that's going to change the deck's overall strategy. Saying it was hit to basically unplayable status is beyond me. The deck is really strong. You guys will see it, and it's going to do what it wants to do. Then you got the SOC deck, which even in our nationals was pretty much a good contender. The the Chimeramon plus the Black Gato. It's basically full power Jesmon without as much of a restriction. I mean, you know, you have less brick targets. You know, you have Analog Youth and Chimera that are basically your only brick targets in the deck, where Jesmon has to place a bunch of Sistermons just to go off. That are brick targets that you can't digivolve in raising for if you needed them to be that raising cost. So I think that's going to be vitally important to keep in mind, that we do have that in effect. I know that, you know, Balfamon could have been a contender in the format if people kept going with it, but Balfamon definitely got hit a little much for what it needed to. I think it's a little bit weaker than it wants to be, so I think it's definitely got knocked down from this format, from the format we're in BT-13, now into BT-14. I think we have a lot of potential here, and SOC is one of those decks you want to be careful of. And then we do have, you know, Bloom Lord being a Bloom Lord. Bloom Lord's going to do what it wants to do. I know we have the LMM cards in here, but all you're going to do is just move Hydramon up and Bloom Lord up here, and that's nothing too crazy. What could actually see some spice play is Ukamon from the, you know, movie Adventure 2, the beginning card. You know, that card could definitely see some play here. It's going to be legal in BT-14, so it's definitely could change things up and could change up some decks entirely. I think it's going to be very unique. And then we do have like Vaccine deck. The deck is super consistent, might do a lot better in this format than it does in the other. I mean, you're losing out Geogray and just switch up to Golden Rappa, maybe up one more. I think that's possibility how this is going to go. And I mean, even Golden Rappa, just going Golden Rappa with Patamon, gain the memory, and then minusing the board can lead to being very scary situations, especially going second or something like that. You're just really getting some decent value out of this, and I think we shouldn't sleep on anything like this. We have potential, especially in a best of 3 format. Vaccine could do a lot better. So just keep that on your radar. But things you want to start thinking about is like Sayokamon cards, so your opponent can't reduce Digi-Evolution cards. This, I wish this was an inheritable as well. I think it would do it a lot better, because having it on a boss Digimon that prevents the trainings from going off, the problem comes down to is there's so many outs to these rookies that we do lead into situations where they're just super outed. And the same thing with Pumamon. This helps counter your SSC deck, you know, D-Brigade, plenty of decks that you can counteract that just play Digimon for free. You know, if they can't remove it before they play, then this card's just a hindrance. Same thing with Sayoko, if they can't remove it, but most decks can just easily out things like this now with just breathing. And that's the kind of the problem I see, is that these cards are great, but you just got to keep this on thought process. Like I said, Ukamon's going to be really a competitive choice, to be honest with you. So the gaining the 1 memory is really awesome, especially if it stays up, if you can get multiples on board, or even just getting that 1 on board. It just sets up. Move the thing up from breeding, set yourself up. You know, OTK decks, now this speeds you guys up. You guys can now go with click faster. I mean, Dorbrick probably might tech this in. It's not like they're going to be playing it outside of the rookie aspect. You just bring it up, and then you're just ready, set, go. You know, I think Gugumon's definitely slept on. I did talk about Savior and the Tommy, but that's all just possibilities at this point. Tommy is a great stripper, but I think taking that into account, it's not going to do much. But we'll have to see what goes on. You know, Death X is definitely going against those wide boards that just want to play that game. And what do I mean by that? You know, SOC, D-Brigade, you know, Bloom Lord. So any of those 3 decks that just want to spit out bodies just because they can, you know, we might be looking at 2 Death X in your guys' nationals. And that's just to help prevent and alleviate the wide board strats. Death X is a very powerful card, and I think you might be seeing more and more relevancy in BT-14. We'll have to see. And then we have like Shine Greymon Ruin mode. You know, Vaccine, Shine Greymon itself will definitely be playing this. And the fact of the matter is, it puts that blanket in minus 5,000 DP. This could slow down your opponent extremely fast, because if they were going to promote that stack up and it was a rookie, Now they waste their turn because they're not promoting it up until it's on Ultimate. So now they have to wait an extra turn. They're not playing bodies. The fact that the minus 5,000 DP might force them to be an Ultimate already to bring up, and that means you get a second turn to just swing in. I think Ruin Mode will be vital in those situations, especially against like Fang Luga, that basically wants to spit out 5Ks, 5,000 DPs. You know, they spit out bodies, but because the minus 5,000 DPs there, they might not be able to OTK you right away. So that's something you want to take into consideration. I mean, you know, Black Gato can survive. That's the only like downside is Black Gato does survive this, but a lot of its low end kind of just goes bye-bye. So stuff like that you want to keep in mind, especially maybe if you do Ruin Mode pop itself and then it's 10,000 DP, then you might be able to even push even further. But, you know, like I mentioned, even D-Brigade. D-Brigade, basically their whole bottom end goes bye-bye if they even attempt something with it. So that's something to keep on mind. And then like Soul Ride too. Soul Ride definitely will help stop Marcus punching you. If hidden security with Mirage, you might bring it back your turn. You know, stuff like that does matter and add up in some circumstances. So Ride being able to answer threats on board, just slowing your opponent down, especially if you're not facing against heavy X antibody decks, you now have options to be able to slow down your opponent. So Ride's just that really good. And then you have like Crimson Blades for red decks, just to slow down the wide board strats, because Fang Luga will do that. And then you do also have Hades Force. I didn't pull this up, but Hades Force is another option for War Greymon themed. But if you're going red, Crimson Blade is definitely where you want to be at. But there's a lot of potential in this format to be pretty decently healthy. We'll have to see how the trainings shape up, how speed and tempo go. But I think going from now to training format might change people's mindsets, but we'll have to see. But guys, what do you think? What are you guys going to be running in the Oceanic and the... not Oceanic, Europe and Latam? What are you guys thinking about? So guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace!